Okay, so now we're going to graph linear equations that are written in general form. Now, in general form, the equation line looks like this. Now, this is general form. It looks like ax plus by plus c equals 0. All right, so that's how it looks. So everything will be on one side and 0 will be on the other. And so when it's in general form, the first thing we want to do is graph it using slope and y-intercept. And so what you want to do first is write in slope-intercept form. Okay, so first part of this lesson is going to be where you're going to take general form and you're going to write in slope-intercept form, and then you're going to graph. All right, so remember, slope-intercept form, you got to get y equal y by itself. So y equals lmx plus b. So you're going to transform this to that form. Okay, so and then once you transform that form, you can graph using slope and y-intercept. Using slope and y-intercept. All right, now the other part we're going to do is we're going to graph the equation using intercepts. So x intercepts and y-intercepts. But first of all, let's do part A first. All right, so let's look at this equation. So it'll look like this. So graph each of the following. All right, now the first thing you're going to do is in each one of these is you're going to write in slope-intercept form. So write in slope-intercept form, and then graph using slope and y-intercept. Okay, M and B, slope and y-intercept. Okay, number one. Okay, suppose we had 3x plus y minus 5 equals 0. All right, now this is not that bad because if you notice, to get in slope-intercept form, you got to get y by itself. All right, so the coefficient of y is already 1, so that's a good thing. So basically what we need to do is we've got to bring the 3x to the other side. So I've got to subtract 3x from both sides and do one thing at a time. And so at this point I have y minus 5 equals 0 minus 3x is negative 3x. Combine like terms here, that's 0. So that's what I have so far. But remember, I could get y by itself. So the last step is to add 5 to both sides. And so when I add 5 to both sides and combine like terms, I get y equals a negative 3x plus 5. And so that's slope-intercept form. Okay? Now, what you want to do is graph using slope and y-intercept. So from here, I note that the slope is the coefficient of x, so it's negative 3. And I know that the y-intercept is this constant, so that's a positive 5. So just like we did in the last section, we're going to graph using slope and y-intercept. So remember, the first thing you're going to do is plot the y-intercept first. So the y-intercept is 0, 5. So that's here. So this will be number 1. 0, 5. And then remember, the slope here is an integer, so you need to rewrite as a fraction, so it'll be negative 3 over 1. And so from this y-intercept, okay, so from this y-intercept, remember to graph the line, you need 2 points. I already know one of them, the y-intercept. From this y-intercept, my rise is a negative 3, so I'm going to go down 3. 1, 2, 3 from the y-intercept. 1, 2, 3. Don't put a dot here. You got to use the run next, and my run's a positive 1, so I'm going to go to the right one. So that's where I'm going to put my dot. So here's the other point. So the other point is 1, 2. And then this is 0, 5. All right, and so I draw a line through it, and there's my graph. And that's all you do. All right, so the first thing you have to do is get y by itself. Notice the algebra you had to do. So you had to bring the 3x over and bring the negative 5 over. So to bring the 3x over, you had to subtract 3x from both sides. And then you had to add 5 to both sides. And there you go. All right, number 2. Okay, so number 2, you have 2x plus 3y minus 18 equals 0. So 2x plus 3y minus 18 equals 0. Now remember, this is general form. So first thing you want to do is write it in slope-intercept form. So we're going to get y by itself. So I'm going to bring the 2x over. So I'm going to subtract 2x on both sides, just like this, just like we did number 1. And so when I do that, I combine like terms. This is 0. I get positive 3y minus 18 equal a negative 2x. And then I'm going to add 18 to both sides, just like this. Combining like terms, I get, this is 0, so I get 3y equal negative 2x plus 18. So that's where I'm at. All right, now this one was easy because when I added the constant to both sides, y was already by itself. So that was an easy one. Here, though, y is not by itself. So remember, you got to get y by itself. Right now, multiplying by 3, the opposite is to divide both sides by 3. Now, here's how it looks. What you do one side, you do the other. Okay, that's how it looks. 3 divided by 3 is 1. 1 times y is y. Now, what you want to do here is write this as two separate fractions. So you can say negative 2/3 x, negative 2x over 3, just like this. And then plus 18 over 3, which I can write as y equals, you need to simplify this. Don't leave this as 18 over 3. You know what 18 over 3 is. So you're going to rewrite it as negative 2/3 x plus 6. Okay, so negative 2/3 x plus 6. All right, so the slope is, so this is slope-intercept form. So you got slope-intercept form now. Slope-intercept form. So the slope is negative 2/3, and the y-intercept is 6. All right, so number 2, here's where you're going to graph it. Just like I did before, the only new stuff is getting this journal form to slope-intercept form. Everything else that we did was in a previous lesson. So the the y-intercept is 6, so that's going to be here. That's going to be number 2. And from here, I'm going to do rise over run. My rise is negative 2, so that means I'm going to go down 2. So I'm right here. And my run is a positive 3, so I'm going to go to the right 3. 1, 2, 3. So there's the other point. So that's the point 3, 4. 3, 4. And this is the point 0, 6. And then I connect the dots with a straight line. And this is my graph. You're done. That's all you do. All right. So again, notice the slope is negative in both cases, so the line should be falling. And notice the y-intercept 6, the y-intercept's 3. The y-intercept's 5 here. So 6. See the y-intercept right here? 6. And the y-intercept, where is it here? Right here? 5. All right. Okay. Now, number 3. Suppose we had this one. Suppose we had 8x minus 4y minus 12 equals 0. So 8x minus 4y minus 12 equals 0. So you want to get this in slope-intercept form, so let's subtract 8x from both sides first. Like we've been doing, do one thing at a time. Combine like terms at 0, you're left with negative 4y. Now be careful, that's a negative 4y. Minus 12 equal 0, negative 8x, that's an x, is a negative 8x. Now, got to add the constant to both sides. So add 12 to both sides, combine like terms. I get negative 4y equal a negative 8x plus 12. That's where I'm at. Now, the next step, remember, you got to get y by itself. This is not slope-intercept form just yet because you don't have y by itself. Right now, you're multiplying by negative 4. The opposite is to divide by negative 4, just like this. You do one side, you do the other. Negative 4 divided by negative 4 is 1. 1 times y is y equal. Now, what you want to do here is rewrite this as two fractions. So in your mind, you're saying this. You're saying negative 8x divided by negative 4, that's negative 4, plus 12 divided by negative 4. Now, don't leave your answer like this. You got to simplify this. So you're going to say y equals a negative divided by negative is a positive. 8 divided by 4 is 2, so that's a positive 2x. A positive 12 divided by negative 4 is a negative 3. All right, so that's slope-intercept form. All right, now from here, you know the slope. The slope is 2, not 2x. That's a mistake some people make. It's 2. It's the number that you're multiplying the variable by. And this y-intercept is the constant negative 3. Not 3, but negative 3. All right, and then from there, you graph, and you're done. So you're gonna plot the y-intercept first. So the y-intercept here is negative 3. So that's going to be on the y-axis at negative 3, right here. And then from here, the slope is 2. So remember, 2 means 2 over 1. So rise a fraction. So you're going to, the rise is 2, the run's 1. So from the y-intercept, I'm going to go up 2, since rise is a positive 2, and then to the right 1, since run's a positive 1. And then I graph the line, and you're done. That's all you do. So you're going to do something like this. And if it says label points, you label the points. So that's the point 1 comma negative 1. And then that's the point 0 negative 3. All right. Now, so that part is not that difficult. You're just taking general form right here, taking general form and writing it in slope-intercept form. So you got to get y by itself. So it's just a matter of algebraically getting y by itself. Just be careful when you divide by a constant, the coefficient. You want to rewrite it in two fractions, and you want to simplify whenever possible. Okay, then you graph and you're done. All right, now the other part to this, going back here, so basically we did this part. So this part was where you took a linear equation written in general form, and you wrote in slope-intercept form, and then you graphed. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take the general form and just graph using intercepts. All right, so let's talk about intercepts. Okay, intercepts. Okay, so remember, we're talking about X and Y intercepts. So the X intercept is where the graph crosses the x-axis. All right, and the Y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis. All right, so if I'm in a plane somewhere, if I have this line right here, let's say this line here, then this is the Y-intercept, and this is the X-intercept. Okay? So that's where the graph crosses the x-axis, that's where the graph crosses the y-axis. Now I want you to notice something. No matter where you are on the y-axis, my y-intercept, no matter where you are on the y-axis, my y-intercept, the x-coordinate is always 0. All right, the x-coordinate is 0. So this could be 0, 4, this could be 0, 2, this could be 0, negative 1, this could be 0, negative 5, and so on. But the x-coordinate is 0. So if you want to find the y-intercept, you're going to let x equal 0, because that's what it is. X is always 0. Okay, now let's talk about the X-intercept. All right, so let's talk about the X-intercept. So no matter where you are on the x-axis, no matter where you are, no matter where the graph crosses the x-axis, no matter where it is, the y-coordinate is always 0. Think about that. If this right here is 2, 0, if this is 3, 0, this is negative 2, 0, and so on. So no matter where you are on the x-axis, the y-coordinate is 0. So if you want to find the x-intercept, you're going to let y equal 0. Okay, so to find the y-intercept, you let x equal 0. Kind of makes sense, because no matter where I am on the x-axis, no matter where the graph crosses the x-axis, the y-axis rather, x is 0. For the x-intercept, no matter where the graph crosses the x-axis, the y-coordinate is always 0. Okay? All right, so let's see how we're going to do this. Let's write this as number 4. So number 4, you want to graph. Now with these, you want to graph using intercepts. Okay, graph using intercepts. Make sure you follow directions. The direction says write in slope-intercept form and use the slope-intercept to graph, then you do that. If the direction says graph using intercepts, you must use intercepts. All right, so here's a general equation. Let's say we had this. 6x minus 2y minus 12 equals 0. All right, so remember, that's general form. Now, all they want you to do is to find using intercepts, so that's easy. All you do is this. To find the x-intercept, you let y equal 0. So in place of y, you're going to plug in 0. Now look, when y is 0, you get negative 2 times 0, which is 0. So basically that term goes away, and you're just left with 6x minus 12 equals 0. and you just solve this equation. Solve for x. So remember what happened. When you want to find the x-intercept, you let y equal 0. So you have 6x minus 2 times 0 minus 12 equals 0. But the point being that this is always going to be 0. And so you're left with, this term goes away, you're left with 6x minus 12. That's what you're left with, 6x minus 12 equals 0. And you just solve this equation. So you're going to add 12 to both sides. Combine like terms, I get 6x equal 12. Divide both sides by 6, and I get the x-intercept to be 2. The x-intercept to be 2. So that's where the graph's going to cross the x-axis. Now they ask you to write as an ordered pair, then you say 2, 0. That's the ordered pair for the x-intercept, 2, 0. Alright, now we found the x-intercept, so which means this, which means that the graph is going to cross the x-axis at 2, right here. That's where the graph's going to cross the x-axis at 2. So this is number 4. Now we got to find the y-intercept. Where would the graph cross the y-axis? That's what you got to find next. So to find the y-intercept, you're going to let x equal 0. So if you let x equal 0, remember x is 0, so that means right here, 6 times 0 is 0. So that term goes away. You kind of cover it up, and notice what's left. What's left is the equation negative 2y minus 12 equals 0. So you got to solve for y this time. Solve for y. And so I'm going to add 12 to both sides. Combine like terms. I get negative 2y is equal to 12. And then dividing both sides by negative 2, remember you got to get y by itself. So dividing both sides by negative 2, I get my y-coordinate, my y-intercept is negative 6. So my y-intercept is negative 6. So I plot that point. Now remember, if they wanted you to write it as an ordered pair, if it says write as an ordered pair, remember your y is negative 6. So x is 0, y is negative 6. Alright, so negative 6 is right here. That's where negative 6 is. If it says label, you label. So this is 2, 0, and this is 0, negative 6. And then you just connect the points, or you draw a line through those points, and there's your graph. You're done. That's all you do. So that's the graph. All right. So you graph. Notice my points are the x-intercept, the y-intercept, nothing else. I did not use slope and y-intercept to do this. I used intercepts to do this. I found the x-intercept and I found the y-intercept, and that was the directions. Nothing else. Okay, number 5. All right, let's again graph using intercepts. So let's say this is number 5. Let's say we had 2x plus 3y plus 6 equals 0. So 2x plus 3y plus 6 equals 0. Now remember, you want to graph using intercepts. So first thing you do is you're going to say to find the x-intercept, you're going to let y equal 0. So if y is 0, that means 3 times 0 is 0, and this term goes away, and you're left with the equation 2x plus 6 equals 0. And then you solve for x, and that's going to be your x-intercept. So when I solve for x, I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides, combine like terms, I get 2x equal negative 6, then divide both sides by 2, I get the x-intercept to be negative 3. As an ordered pair, if they asked you to write this as an ordered pair, you would say negative 3, 0. All right, now to find the y-intercept this time, you're going to let x equals 0. And the same thing, if x is 0, this is 2 times 0, which is 0, so that goes away, and you're left with this equation. You're left with the equation 3y plus 6 equals 0. And then subtract 6 from both sides. Combine like terms, I get 3y equal negative 6. Divide both sides by 3. I found the y-intercept to be negative 6 divided by 3 is negative 2. And again, as an ordered pair, if they asked you to write this as an ordered pair, it would be 0, negative 2. And then you just graph. And so when you graph it, let's see, this is going to be number 5. I think I can do on this one. All right, so this is number 5. number 5. So when you graph it, the x-intercept was -3. Make sure you put on the correct axis. So this is the x-axis, so that's your x-intercept. And your y-intercept is -2, so make sure you put that on the y-axis. -2 is right here on the y-axis. If it says label, you label, so that's 0, -2. That will be -3, 0. And then you draw your line. And that's all you do. Just draw your line. And here's the graph. Make sure you put arrows. You must put arrows on these. Alright, and let's do one more with this. Let's do number 6. So let's say number 6 was, let me see if I can find a sheet of paper. Let's suppose number 6 was this. Again, using intercepts. Graph using intercepts. So you have 8x minus 2y plus 12 equals 0. Okay, so using intercepts. Alright, so to find the x-intercept, you're going to let y equals 0. So if I let y equals 0, notice what happens. -2 times 0 is 0, so that goes away. So I'm left with the equation 8x plus 12 equals 0. And now I just solve for x. I solve for x. I solve this equation for x. And so I'm going to subtract 12 from both sides, combine like terms. I get 8x equal -12. Divide both sides by 8. I get 8 divided by 8 is 1. 1 times x is x. And then reducing this, they're both divisible by 4, so I get -3 halves, which is -1.5. Okay? Right here. So reduce, they're both divisible by 4, so it'll be -3 halves, which is the same as -1.5. Alright, so there's my x-intercepts. I found the x-intercept. So x-intercept is this. Alright, now to find the y-intercept, you're going to let x equals 0. So if x is 0 this time, notice 8 times 0 is 0, so that goes away. That term disappears, and you're left with a -2y. So a -2y plus 12 equals 0. And then you just solve for y. So you solve for y, and that's going to be your y-intercept. And so I subtract 12 from both sides. When I subtract 12 from both sides, that's 0. I'm left with -2y equal -12. Divide both sides by -2. Remember, you got to get y by itself. -2 divided by -2 is 1. 1 times y is y. And negative divided by negative is a positive. 12 divided by 2 is 6. So there's your y-intercept. So y-intercept equals 6. All right, so then you plot those 2 points, and then you're done. And you graph your line. So my x-intercept's -1.5. So remember, that's going to be on your x-axis. So here's -1, here's -2. Right in the middle is -1.5, right here. So right in the middle. See it right here. Right in the middle. -1, -2, so it's -1.5. And the other one is a +6. That's your y-intercept, a +6. So that's going to be way up here. Right here. And then if they ask you to label it, there's going to be 0, 6. This right here is going to be -1.5, 0. -1.5, 0. You draw your line, and you are done. That's all you do. With the arrows, don't forget to draw the arrows, so you don't lose points. Okay, so all you did in this lesson was given a general form. Remember, that's general form. All the terms on one side, 0 on the other. First thing you did was you want to write this in slope-intercept form, so you got y by itself. Then you graphed using slope and y-intercept. The other thing you did was, given general form, we also saw that we can graph using intercepts. So find the x-intercept, find the y-intercept. So find the x-intercept, you let y equal 0, and then solve for x. To find the y-intercept, you let x equal 0, and solve for y, and you're done. So that's all this lesson was about. It's not that difficult. Just practice with this and you should be fine.